Welcome to The InEVitable, a podcast by MotorTrend.
Hi there. Welcome to MotorTrend's The InEVitable Vodcast. This is our vodcast, our podcast on the future of automotive, the future of mobility, the future of the car. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? How are we going to pull cost out to improve margins for new cars and amazing electric vehicles? We'll talk about all of that. But before we do that, I got to tell you, The InEVitable Vodcast is brought to you by the all-electric Nissan Ariya, inspired by the future and designed for the now. And right now, let me address a couple of very obvious changes here. We are in a temporary studio. Our production partner, Podcast One, is moving to a new location. So for this episode and this episode only, we're in this awesome setup. You'll also notice the blank chair next to me. Johnny just happens to be on vacation. We had a minor scheduling mix-up, so he's unfortunately not able to be here, which is perfectly fine for me because we have a great guest. We've been trying super long, super hard to get Sandy Munro, Design Prophet from Munro Associates, leandesign.com, on this pod because the dude is wicked smart. He's a legend in the industry. He knows everything there is to know about tearing down vehicles, pulling costs out, figuring out what makes them tick, what margins car companies have created for themselves, and how to improve the value for car companies and also the end user. Crazy smart guy. He's a Tesla and EV super nerd, as you will find out. And because Johnny's not here, I went super long with him. So we're going to skip the question of the episode and go right to this interview with Sandy Munro, Design Prophet. Sandy Munro, thank you so much for coming on to The InEVitable. Ding, I don't have my bell. I normally hit the bell
Ding.
when we say it.
I can do that. Yeah.
But I appreciate it. This has been a long time coming, and you're a busy guy, and it's great to be able to catch you when you're in Los Angeles. We, as you know, are in a temporary situation here, so I appreciate you being flexible and coming to a new location at a new time.
Well, it was no big deal, and quite frankly, I'm kind of honored to be here. I can hardly wait for the questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm ready.
Let's go. Let's fire away.
Ready. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I don't even know where to start because you're what you've been doing is so interesting in the automotive space. But why don't we just start with the most obvious, which is you seem to have exploded in popularity after interviewing Mr. Elon Musk. Is that fair to say?
We got a lot of press during COVID, and the reason for that was because nobody had anything to do, and they found out we were tearing apart a Tesla, and that's actually how Elon found out about us. Well, he knew about us before that. He knew that we had taken apart a vehicle, and there was a local TV station that kind of talked a little bit, and that's when I made the infamous. We do very accurate costing on products. And when I first got the Tesla Model 3, I said this thing's got gaps big enough to see from the moon, and it looks like a 1990 Kia or something along those lines. Everybody is booing and stuff like that, and I wound up with the Tesla fanboys, threatening me, and then I got in it. I hadn't driven it up to that point in time. I got in and I drove it around on a parking lot that was adjacent to our building. Holy crap, this is the fastest thing I've been in. And I used to race and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I couldn't believe how quick it was. And then once we got past the terrible job with doors and whatever, I was really amazed at the electronics. So when we first got going, it was like first the Tesla guys hated us, and then the short sellers hated us. And then for a while, both of them hated us. So we were, incredibly popular with both sides. And so anyway, what wound up happening was we also have a defense group at Munro. And so when people started saying they were going to blow up the building and everything, we had to call the FBI. So we had protection. I used to pack every day, literally, because I mean, I didn't know how to take these guys. Uh-huh. And then as time progressed and we got done with this thing, a guy named John McElroy said, "Well, Sandy, what do you think the price of this thing, or what do you think they make any money here?" And I said, "Well, we've calculated 35% gross." What? That wasn't what they were expecting. Now, I'd never been in that facility, and I knew they did a bunch of goofy things. And
You're talking about the Fremont factory?
The Fremont factory.
Yeah.
They still haven't let me in. But anyways, I saw it before, and I'm pretty sure it's even a bigger show than it was when I first looked at it. So anyway, what we did was we said, okay, this is going to be built in a plant that, was done properly. Now, their plant wasn't done properly, right, and they had tents and stuff like that. So I'm not sure where we are. But if it was in a normal plant, it would have been about between 32 and 35% gross margin. That's a lot. That's a big number that most car companies don't get.
What is a normal car company? What's their gross margin?
Probably about 20. If you're really good, like a Toyota, you might get up to about 26, 27, and for others, a lot less.
And that's all the just-in-time manufacturing. That's having parts that fit the first time.
Correct.
And getting that's the lean.
Yeah. Lean manufacturing. Toyota production system.
TPS, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So that's great. That's a great story. So you were exposed. This is fundamentally what you do. Your expertise is tearing down production vehicles, writing up these super detailed reports, and telling anybody who wants to buy one of your reports where these manufacturers are succeeding and failing. Is that fair?
Yeah. Well, actually, Munro, that's what we're famous for, but that's not really what we do. We do new product development mostly.
Okay.
So I was talking to Alistair a second ago about the we were hired by BMW to help them develop the Mini, and prior to that, we were working with General Motors on consolidation of product and whatnot. It was amazing at GM how much money we could take out of their vehicles. And then prior to that, I was working at Ford. That's where I developed the system that we use, the lean design stuff. We used to call it design for robotics or design for automation. But anyway, it's a way of perfecting the design of the vehicle before you get onto the factory floor, because there's not as much money on the floor that you can extract. Once you've invested and you've got 10 pieces where you should have had only one, then that's a real problem. So we get in and we look at that. So right now we have 5 OEMs that we're working with. Mm-hmm. And in one case we've identified somewhere around $3,800 worth of cost reduction in the next generation of their vehicle. So, and that's all from design, not from manufacturing. But we also do manufacturing stuff, right, because we do the gambit. Where, like I say, new product development for me goes from artistic endeavors like a watercolor all the way to first customer ship. That's what we work on. But in there, we have to keep abreast of what's going on. So we tear apart vehicles, we analyze them. Sometimes we sell reports, sometimes we can see that nobody's going to want it except us. And then sometimes they're bespoke. So it would be for a specific customer wants to know everything about a product, and then they want to compare it to their product. So you've got this vehicle and that vehicle, and then we do a best of best study based on not just the vehicle that they want to look at, mm-hmm, but also maybe vehicles that we've had in the past that we think would be comparable. And then when we get done, we have the best of best. We got little green marks all over the place. Here's the guy that's got the best seats. Here's the guy that's got the best instrument panel, blah, blah, all that other stuff. And then when we're all done, we say, okay, let's going to take all the best of best, and now it's better than best of best. Now you've got every good idea, and in the process, you can also get rid of more operations that don't count, that we would classify as waste. So.
When you say best, how do you qualify? How do you define
That would
best?
be the easiest to assemble, the lowest cost, the best from a functionality standpoint, and then styling. So again, we were talking a little bit ago. I really didn't care much for the BMW i3, and that's
what you're famous.
yeah.
That's actually the prior to the
Yeah,
Tesla.
that was
what you're famous for, is tearing apart the i3.
Yeah, and the BMW i3, as far as I was concerned, and still am committed to what I said. I mean, that car was technologically advanced that nobody should have been able to catch up to BMW. If that thing would have looked like a BMW, there would be no Tesla. There would be nobody. They would have crushed the market if it would have looked like a BMW. But it didn't. It looked to me like some kid with crayons. I don't know. It really wasn't. It wasn't a BMW. It should never. And Mrs. Well, she was not with us any longer, but the lady in charge of BMW, she was unhappy, and now the grandchildren aren't happy either. So, yeah, it's.
But wait, you spoke
a
so
real
highly
deal.
about its technology.
Oh, yeah.
But the biggest thing, the styling, is what you're saying. The
But the
execution.
problem is, you see, okay, I'm an engineer, and technology to me is everything. But the people who buy the vehicle, you have to take that into account.
Sure.
That's why one of the facets that we look at is, how is this going to appeal to the market you're trying to hit? There are certain things that catch a woman's eye that men don't care about.
Right.
Men care about this. So you have to, you're continuously juggling to find out where that happy medium is. And with the BMW i3, I couldn't find women that liked it, and I definitely didn't like it.
Yeah, it's funny because I live nearby here, the beach cities, and there's still a ton of i3s around.
Oh yeah, and you can buy them 10 a penny. They're easy to get at. They last forever, and you can the battery packs are really cool because you can pull them out and you can lug them around. I think they're like 30 or 40 pounds, whatever. You can take them in your basement. You can daisy chain them. I can't believe it. I mean, with one of those, you could conceivably have your own power wall in the basement, but just by hooking them up. And I seriously considered that until my wife bought Tesla walls. We have 3 Tesla walls in our basement, and our electric bill is somewhere between $13 and $7 a month. So
well, you should be giving it back to the grid. Actually, come on, can't you make money if you're
actually
doing it right?
We do give back to the grid,
right.
and guess what happens?
What?
Thank you very much. That was very kind of you to give us that. Because you only get so far, they will never pay you for everything. Because that's the way the grid works.
Well, this is great. I didn't want to revisit the i3 because I feel like it's kind of old news for you. But for the people who are like, yeah, talking about what? The BMW i3 was this little pod-shaped vehicle. It had sort of full-size front doors and then these suicide doors.
Oh, yeah.
It had a range extender, and there was an EV version that didn't sell particularly well.
Well, it was an EV.
But I mean, yeah, but not in the. It's a range extended EV versus a full battery
hybrid, yeah.
versus a full battery electric.
Yeah, well, that was really a bad mistake as well.
Yeah.
And
limited range.
actually, we know the guys who designed that engine, and I didn't know at the time, and I made comments about how noisy it was and what kind of idiot did that, and I was standing right next to the chief engineer that designed it. So, yeah.
But
anyhow.
what were the? Can you just go into a little bit of detail into what, in your mind, were the major advances of that vehicle for the time? Because for the era, right, it was the fact that it was BMW's first production vehicle with that carbon chassis.
Yeah, carbon
fiber chassis, and then it had all these sort of interesting. It was a big thing about sustainability. And I think manufacturing was a big deal for them. They wanted to make sure it was lowest carbon impact, but also like some unique materials. And they used felt and some other adhesives were like a big thing.
The adhesives were huge. The aluminum that they used and the adhesive that they used with it made it so that you could take some, like carbon fiber is a rock. It's a stone. It doesn't expand and contract with heat. But the cross car beam was made out of aluminum. Well, how does this work? It should rip free when you get cold, and it should blow the car to pieces when you... but they were really, really slick on what they did, on how they manufactured it. From an engineering standpoint, you got to take your hat off. And then, of course, they won all kinds of awards for the casting and the metrologies that they developed. They took one of their castings and welded it to a piece of aluminum extrusion. That shouldn't be possible. In those days, it couldn't be possible because it should have had something called hydrogen embrittlement, which, in essence, it looks like sugar cubes. Or not sugar cubes, but like granules of sugar or whatever. You poke at it and it just falls apart, but it didn't. And that's where they won the European award for casting and stuff like that. And actually, the casting material, that aluminum that was developed, is sort of kind of real close to what is in the mega and gigacastings that Tesla uses. Everybody now knows about that stuff. But that was really from BMW. And then the electronics and the incredibly clever ways that they use the heating and cooling for the battery packs. Everything about it was wonderful except for the styling. There was and that pup engine, they could have left that behind. Yeah.
So remind me again. You give it like an A++ on the technical, the manufacturing, that execution, that thinking, but like an F.
Man, is there something lower than an F? I was thinking maybe like a Z or something like that. I
just remember the first time I drove it, because I thought it looked kind of cool, and they went to your point about it not being a BMW. I think they knew it. They got the double kidney grille, and that's kind of it. And then they really tried to make the wheels fill the arches, so they gave it like bicycle wheels. You remember they were like,
oh, I still got them. They're still sitting on the floor. Actually, though, what we did was we took those wheels and we turned them into high tops for drinking when we have parties at the company.
Yeah, tables. Great. TireRack.com is your place for the best selection of tires from top brands. Always fast and free shipping and multiple convenient installation options. They also stay on the cutting edge of the tire industry. Their world-class tire testing program is truth serum for tires. EV-focused tires, products with noise-canceling technology, they've tested it all to help you make the best decision before buying. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be. So, and then what was the overall grade or the executive summary of that report, and what did it do across the industry? Were people like,
well, nobody cared at all about the styling. Everybody wanted to know about the technology, and we went too far. That study cost me $2 million to do. So we never made a penny on it. However, it gave us a storehouse of information that we used for the aircraft. We were hired, same thing as when we were working on the Mini, we got the same kind of a contract out of Boeing to do the 787. So we worked a lot on that product. That thing made money in 2 years. That doesn't happen with aircraft as a rule. But our little tricks are, and you never hear any problems about the 787. I don't want to get into the other stuff, but anyways,
I was going to just ask you. Do you have any comments on the current state?
No,
of Boeing
I don't. No,
including
I don't.
our poor astronauts that are up there.
Yeah, here's the thing: when you choose your board members, it's a good idea that you don't pick actors, dancers, people who really aren't in the industry.
Hey, we love actors and dancers.
Yeah, we
by
do.
the way.
Yeah, okay, yes, I do. When they're acting and dancing, not on the board of Boeing. And no, they went off the rails in a new direction. I don't want to talk about them because who knows? Maybe one day we'll work with them again. They could use us. But anyway, at the end of the day, what we were looking at was the characteristics of that vehicle were so astounding. There were so many firsts, so many. It was like amazing. That car was just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So the people who buy our reports, they gave us, we probably came within spitting distance of getting our money back, but we certainly never got the $2 million back. But like I say, when we worked on other aircraft, those techniques and the polymers not the polymers, but the adhesives that they used, those onsets are to die for. That solved so many problems. The onsets were the little like studs that were glued to the vehicle. Oh, so many. I mean, a whole lot of good things.
Based on your analysis, was it like in the average i3? How much money did BMW make or lose on it? Were they losing money on each one? No.
My estimation on that, they said they were going to make $50,000 a year, and we said if you can make $50,000 a year on those, you will turn a profit. You got to remember, they had their own carbon fiber plant. Okay, Moses Lake is huge, and now there's 3 of them. They don't own it anymore. They sold it to Boeing to make carbon fiber because it's close, and their carbon fiber was as good as Tory or anybody else on the planet. On and on and on. They just did so many things, and they went vertical integration. Now, I will tell you as well, I've been a big fan of vertical integration for a long time. 2 things that I got criticized heavily for. It was vertical integration and moving away from a unibody to a skateboard type design. And the reason for that was because I said these body shapes hanging around for a long time because I can't change the black metal. Black metal's below the skin. That's the structural metal. I can't change that stuff. It costs too much money. That's got boron. It's got like hot stamp parts and stuff like that. You don't fool around with those kind of dies. It's just too expensive. And I said we should be looking at something different. And I talked about castings, big castings and whatnot. And actually on my floor is a cast, what do you call it, skateboard. And it's been there for 15 years, longer than, way before Elon brought his stuff out.
So you've been criticized for for the position of moving away from unibodies towards the skateboard chassis. That seems strange because the industry has been moving towards, the EVs have made the skateboard chassis like the thing you have to have.
Now. Now.
So
but
how early were you talking about?
25 years ago.
Is that due to Larry Burns in GM?
Larry Burns was a fabulous guy, and he was one of my best buddies when I was working with General Motors. And when he was standing on top of a skateboard doing a little dance or whatever, I'm telling you, there was a lot going on when Larry Burns was there, and he and I knew each other for a long time. As a matter of fact, Larry Burns and I, you might have to cut this, but it's a funny story. Larry Burns and I had to give a presentation to Roger Smith about what we were doing and how this was going to affect General Motors and how it was going to make General Motors a lot happier. And we showed him a couple of examples.
This is like mid-90s, right?
No, this is early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, early 90s, late 80s. And we're showing it because it takes a long time before here I'm designing it and there it's in the marketplace. So anyways, we showed him all these things, and Roger put his hands up and he said, he's a very squeaky guy. Hey, wait a minute. That should be as obvious as pulling your fly up after after peeing. I mean, and we're standing there, and that's not what I was expecting to hear from the CEO of General Motors. But anyways, that was Larry Burns and I. Yeah. So anyways, we were in accord, and he got beat up severely because the popular thing at the time was outsource. Right. And when you outsource the techniques, you basically lose the battle. That's how Rome wound up not being the Roman Empire anymore. So.
Right. And just for the audience, so I met Larry Burns a couple of years ago, and is it fair to say he's kind of like the godfather of EVs? Like from
well, I can tell you, I was on EV1. He stood in the background because he knew it was going to happen. So Ken Burns was the guy that was in charge of that, and we got our orders directly from Bob Stempel, who at the time was the president and CEO. Well, he was the CEO, and Lloyd Royce was the president, and that's where we got our marching orders from. And we did not design that car inside of General Motors.
Mm-hmm.
It was designed in a church that was adjacent to General Motors. They had a great big giant hall, and we had a lot of room to play with, and everything was done, I wouldn't say cloak and dagger, but it really wasn't something that, it wasn't done where it would normally be done,
Right.
which was the design center,
Right.
or the
GM
technology center.
Right. GM
So,
Center.
yeah.
Well, I'm asking only because the way I was introduced to Larry was he was one of the first guys to talk about the skateboard chassis and present it,
Yes.
way back in I
The
think
early, mid-90s.
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 And then he tells me that he met, this was in pre-bankruptcy General Motors, he connected with, GM was going to buy Segway at the time, and they built that prototype, and he met this young engineer over there by the name of Doug Field. Do you know Doug?
I know him well, yes.
Okay, great. Doug's awesome. Doug is now
Yeah.
head of
EV.
all things EV architecture, software-defined vehicles at Ford.
Right.
But he walked through the valley of Elon. He did the Model 3.
Yeah.
And he also worked on Project Titan with at Apple. He was like twice at Apple, hired away most recently from Apple. But Larry, we've been doing a lot of stuff on software-defined vehicles, and Larry is a guy who kind of introduced me, opened my eyes and introduced me to a bunch of people, including, he said, you got to talk to Doug, which I subsequently have. We actually had him on the podcast, which was tremendous.
Cool.
This is phenomenal. I am curious. I want to come back to some of this historical stuff, but because you mentioned casting,
Yes.
I gotta say, have you seen this video that's been circulating by this guy Whistling Diesel? He tested the.
He did not.
Sorry,
test.
he
No.
tortured a couple of electric pickup trucks. He drove them off, bounced the rear ends off of some concrete and steel
Yes.
culverts,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then attempted to do a pretty violent towing scenario, and ended up ripping off the entire rear end
Yep.
of the Cybertruck, right? So if you haven't seen it, it's all over social media and YouTube. And of course now, you mentioned the Tesla bulls and the bulls and bears, the short sellers are, and everyone else who's critical of Tesla, just like, oh, look at this Cybertruck, hunk of junk. You're an engineer. You've done a lot of testing of all sorts of vehicles, including all the electric pickup trucks, I imagine. What do you say to that whole spectacle?
Spectacle. Okay, now we're talking. I was waiting for a word that you could throw out that I could hang my hat on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a spectacle. And that's great. This is where he makes money. People who aren't engineers watch this and they go, ooh, and that's fine. I don't care. I mean, everybody's got to make a buck. That's how he makes his money. Good on him. But am I going to make a comment? Hell no. No, that is not... I do testing, and I have testing done for me, and I want a controlled environment. I don't need somebody that does those kinds of things, and quite frankly, I can make anything look good or bad, based on the camera angle. So I really don't want to even comment about it. I will tell you one thing. The Cybertruck is unique. It's loaded with technology. It's loaded like even probably more than what we see in what I saw in the BMW i3. But if I was going to be buying a work truck, I would be looking at a Ford F-150 Lightning. And then if I happen to have a burning desire to have something General Motors, then I would probably look at a Silverado. Would I look at the Lightning? No. The Lightning is, or sorry, not the Lightning, I mean the Cybertruck. No. To me, the Cybertruck is exactly what I want. I'm going to use it for hunting in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. I've got a tent that we're going to analyze and whatnot, and it hooks onto the back of the truck, and I'm going to get in that, and that's where I'm going to spend my evening. Because that's what I want. I don't want something that I'm going to be taking off the edge of a bunch of sewer pipes. I don't care about that. And if I wanted to do like real off-roading, I'd have a Rivian. Without a question of a doubt, best off-road vehicle ever. I've been driving Wranglers since I was 13, and right up until right up until we got the Rivian, I drove nothing but Wranglers, and that's only a few years ago. But the Rivian with the power and whatnot, that is without a question about nobody can come close. You're looking at a work truck, you can't beat the Lightning. I can run a welder. It's a work truck, and I can run a welder. I got 4 other sockets. I don't know if you heard this, but I actually ran our factory. Our factory is about 50,000 square feet, and we were going to have this big conference. People flew in from all over the world, and then we had a storm, and Lake Orion, where the factory is, or sorry, not Lake Orion, but Auburn Hills, where the factory is, it went dead. Now what are we going to do? These people are phoning us up saying, we can't get into the hotel and blah, blah, blah. We're moving here, moving there. What are you going to do? We took the Lightning, pulled it in, plugged it into our system, and we ran for 5 days off the Lightning. So at 7:30, it would drive in from a place where it was being charged, and we would go from 8 o'clock till 4:30. Then the Lightning would go to get charged again, and then the next day, and it saved us. It saved everybody in that thing probably. So we had people from China, Japan, Korea, Europe, all over the States. Add that up, that's got to be, in 5 days, and a lot of people, that's got to be $300,000-$400,000 plus us, on and on. At least.
So you were charging it to 100%, and running your entire warouse for this conference on it. How much battery was left after a day?
That was something like 15-18%, something like that.
This is wild. Looking for the best off-road trails? OnX Off-Road has you covered. With over 750,000 miles of trails and comprehensive offline maps, you can explore without worrying about cell service. Easily find trails for 4x4s, ATVs, dirt bikes, and more. Our app provides detailed trail info, including difficulty ratings and open/closed dates. OnX Off-Road also helps you navigate public and private land boundaries, ensuring you stay legal. Try OnX Off-Road free for 7 days and discover why it's the go-to app for off-roaders. Download now. So let's recap. Lifestyle truck, Cybertruck is your bet.
Yeah.
You want to go off-roading? A Rivian R1T. Have you driven the quad yet?
Yes, I did. I just did, yeah.
Okay. And then if you want a work truck, F-150 Lightning or Silverado EV. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. Everybody's trying to say it's all things for all people. That's bullshit. It never works out that way. You don't ever get something, I have a Bentley. Well, you know what? I want to haul my trailer. The Bentley's not my first choice. I mean, really, I want to... Actually, the closest thing you can get is a Model Y, because I can beat a Ferrari. I can get grandma in and out of this little vehicle. It's comfortable. It's relatively cheap to run. So maybe you could say that the closest thing to an all-around best vehicle might be a Model Y. But then, by the same token, there's a whole bunch more vehicles that are in that marketplace now. And I haven't gone and done a detailed study, but I did it last year, and in the number 2 position was the Mustang, Ford Mustang, the Mach-E.
The Mach-E, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, if we can just go back, I just want to get your take on this, on casting versus, especially this megacasting, gigacasting move. I mean, can you build Whistling Diesel aside? Body on frame is very well known. It goes back to the days
of the original.
The original. It goes back to the horse carriage days, right? And using a frame that's made of fundamentally of steel, won't that always persist? Or can there actually be like a work truck meant for hauling and towing that has a cast, like a huge casting as the undercarriage, or replacing a body on frame? Or no? Do you ever see that happening?
I think what you're going to find is that you're going to have a situation where you can put a casting in the front and the rear, and you just use your longitudinals made out of steel. If you're going to be hauling stuff and whatnot, I put an end cap on that would be welded to the two longitudinals, and a casting over the top of that. And here's the reason why: people really forget you have to make money making these things. You know what? When Tesla put in place the front and rear castings for the Model Y, nobody really knew how much impact that would have. So a long time ago, Munro worked with Mitsubishi, and we helped them design their plant, which is now the Rivian plant. And
Normal
so I
Illinois.
know, Normal Illinois. I knew everything about it. I have all the process sheets. I know all the machines that were in there, and I know what machines they didn't have, that were sent out for outsourcing and whatnot, usually small parts and whatnot. And guess what? I took that, and then I said, okay, now that I totally understand what was going on in the body shop, let's see what happens if I put in gigacastings. And guess what? I got rid of 40% of the floor space. I got rid of 80% of the labor. Are you me? And then, oh yeah, but aluminum costs more. Well, that is true. But what do I do with the 20 to 40% scrap that I wind up when I'm stamping steel? That's got to be taken into account. How much do I get rid of when I fool around with castings? Okay, there's gates and there's sprues. There's a big thing in the center called a puck. That's where all the stuff goes in. And guess what? Once I've cast the part I want, that goes this way. All that other stuff goes back into the furnace and gets melted down. And quite frankly, if I do scrap out any aluminum, I can get 80, 90 cents, maybe even $1 for that aluminum. What do I get for scrap steel? Sometimes you have to pay to get rid of it. Okay? So the deal is that you have to look at the whole business case. And when it comes out to the business case, it's obvious you want to go to a casting.
Now, does that include after sale repair? Like I'm hearing
repair?
Like, well, if you fracture,
If you fracture those castings, I'm talking about a car now. I don't want to talk about Whistling Diesel,
Sure.
Dixie or whatever. But here's the deal: if you fracture those castings, thank God,
you had
because you just saved your life. Now, I have one of our videos is me being all upset. Every once in a while, it does happen, and I took a 12-pound sledge. And even though I look old and puny and whatnot, I'm still capable. And so I took my 12-pound sledge and I said, let's have a look at what happens here if I hit this longitudinal in a car. And I whacked it. And I put a dent that probably was down about 1 inch. And I said, okay, let's go over here. And now it's hard because it's in the trunk area. So I took the new... well, it was new in those days. I took the Megacasting. There was 2 Megacastings in the original Model Y. And I had that laying on the floor. Not only was it laying on the floor at about the height of that table, it was wide open. And I whacked it probably much harder than I could trying to get it into the trunk to hit that longitudinal. What did I do? I rubbed off the paint. That's it. It didn't fracture. Then everybody said, "Well, yeah, but that really, if you banged the longitudinal in the rear, that wouldn't have scrapped the car." Right. I said, "Well, neither did rubbing the paint off." No, you have to do something that would scrap. So I took a look at the shock tower, and again on a Tesla, I'm going to compare it. It used to be the Model 3, which used to have the same shock tower as the Model Y. So I took a whack at that and I bent it down so I could, if I put a straight edge, I could get my baby finger all the way under it. Went over it, and again, this thing's laying on the ground now. and I whack that, I rub the paint off. It's a lot stronger. A lot stronger. Now, we've done our calculations, and those castings are over-designed by my estimation. They should have been thinner, but that's what they wanted to do. That's fine with me. It's their money. But at the end of the day, this is the kind of engineering that has to happen in order to progress. Now, is this guy that drops the end of a truck over the edge? He's looking for clicks. He's a clickbait kind of guy. Sure. That's fine, but nobody in their right mind in engineering is going to say, "Oh yeah, well that's it. We can't do castings," because I can tell you right now, almost every OEM has bought our reports on the castings. Everybody wants to know what's going on there because everybody has to try and figure out how they're going to make a product that's going to be the lowest cost, safest, easy to build, lowest labor, blah, 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 on and on. And when you have those casts, by the way, I don't know if you're aware of it. Do you know how long it takes to fill the mold for one of those huge castings?
Seconds, right?
No. It takes 0.8 of a second. 0.8 of a second. So that means that I have no no stress. Okay? There's no induced stress because the metal is moved so quickly that it doesn't have time to think about, oh, I'm having a bad day. It just, boom, there it is. And it's frozen in time. I don't have to heat treat it. It's perfect the way it is. It'll never move. That means that I now have 100% for the front and rear anyways. I've got 100% accuracy. You cannot believe how many things go wrong when you stamp parts, a whole bunch of little teeny 120, 130 parts in a rear or a front. You weld them all together. They all warp in their own different ways. You bend them, you twist them, you kiss them, you do whatever you can do to make them work. But with this, done. Everything now that goes on top of it has a perfect build. And that's what I liked about the BMW i3. Having carbon fiber for a body, it doesn't get any better. It makes guys who work in a body shop weep for happiness. I mean, they're delighted when they see this kind of stuff. But that's kind of like what's going to happen.
The speed of the molten aluminum entering the mold essentially matters to the accuracy, the precision, and the structural integrity. Yeah, interesting. That's why we have you on the show.
There you go. I hope everybody hasn't gone to sleep yet.
No. This is fascinating. So is the future, in a sense, is the future Hot Wheels? Is the future like all of our cars are going to have a full length casting as the undercarriage and then a body dropped on top?
Hang on. Well, maybe, but not in my lifetime. But there is somebody who's already got it. Chery. Chery's just bought a 16,000-ton press from
was that Italian firm?
KS. What?
Oh, was it the Italian guy?
No, the Hydra is owned by KS.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so they are making, I think it's KS. I can't remember, but anyways, it's a Chinese company, and they are making this for Chery, and there is a videotape floating around. I don't know if we popped it up on ours. Maybe we can do. I'll send it to you or something. You can put it up. And here it is. I mean, there's a guy standing there, and it's a complete car body or a car undercarriage, all done in one fell swoop. That is a big ass press. My guess is that if you looked at it, it would be like looking at an apartment building laying on its side. That's a lot of press. I'm not sure I'd go that far.
So, but why not? Like, why is Tesla doing, the front and rears and not the middle, per se? Because
first off, Tesla's way smarter than that. They have a connection. It's made out of aluminum. There's an aluminum beam in the center of it, and then it has a standard steel rocker on the outside. And why do they want to do that? Because Tesla is wizard when it comes to new ways of processing a car. So what they do is they build up the battery module. Then they lay down the wire harness, the carpets, the seats, and then it comes up inside the car.
Right.
Why would I ever want to get rid of that? You can't believe how many stations on the assembly line that gets rid of. How easy it makes it to put basically. So you've got the seats, the carpet, you've got the harness, the cross harness, you've got the or body harness, you've got the center console. All these things all go in one fell swoop. Holy mackerel! I mean, why didn't we think of that before? Oh, because we had a unibody. Can't do that with a unibody. If you can't either, because the first thing that goes in is the floor pan. And once the pan is in there, everything else has to be attached to it. And if the floor pan, like sometimes what happens is you crack one of these big dies. Nobody is really anxious to run out and buy a new floor pan die. It just is really expensive and takes forever. So what happens? Well, it breathes. And that's the last thing in the world you want to have. When that big press comes out and goes kadunk, I want everything to be rock solid. And if something's broken, if a section or the shoe is broken or whatever, it'll breathe. And that means that every floor pan is a little different than the last one. Did they work? Sure. But do they work well? Not so much. That's why you've got guys with hammers and
Right.
and 2x4s trying to figure out how to make it go down the line.
So there's no universe in the future where maybe Chery's doing it, where the entire undercarriage casting, you would just drop the battery, the carpet, the seats, the hiring on top, and just
and you could do that. Yeah, you absolutely could do that. It wouldn't be my first choice just because I'm not. First off, no one has ever made a 16,000 ton press. The biggest presses normally used to be big if they were 6,000 tons. When the 8,000 ton press came out, everyone went, how do you do that? How do you keep it from blowing up? Then the 9,000 ton press came out, then the 12, and now we've got 16. I mean, I have no idea where that's going to end, but sometimes you get to the laws of diminishing returns. Personally, I think what Tesla's done, and this is what we recommend to our customers, where you do the front and rear and then connect it together with a couple of chunks of iron and basically a long aluminum extrusion to make everything fit together. That's probably as good as it's going to get for right now. But making a gigantic thing like that, I don't know how. And the other thing too is it's got double rams. So it's got two 8,000 ton rams coming in at the same time. I don't know how that works. So I'm a big fan of, I want to see it before I start telling everybody to open their checkbook.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Chery, and we've just started. Over the summer, I took a small crew over to China, and we drove about 20 different Chinese EVs and E-Revs. From everybody. We drove Zeekr and Neo and Li Auto and iCar and Huawei Avatar and the Ito M9. What's your experience been with with these Chinese cars? Have you done a lot of teardown stuff? Anything you can talk
From
about?
2014 until 2020, where was I? In China.
Okay.
What was I doing? Teaching them how to design electric cars. I mean, among other things. We looked at a lot of stuff, but electric cars was definitely one of the things that we were, because nobody wanted to talk about that here, and I was interested. I've been interested ever since the EV1. So they said, hey, we'd like some help. We know how to build cars. They got that from BMW and Mercedes and all the other Europeans and Americans that came over. They understand how to build a car, no question about it. But how to design it is that's a whole different thing. So we went over and we had workshops that had thousands of people. Thousands. Over here, 20, 30 at a crack sometimes. But over there, thousands of people. We had, at Yuchai, we had, that's an engine company. They did 8 or 10, I can't remember, engines at the same time. We analyzed 8 or 10 different engines. I had a crew of, 8. All my people were running around trying to, making sure that they use the software correctly. You have to use the software. You can't make it all work, by little scratches on paper or whatever. So and whatnot, they got all done. The V6 that we did, they dropped the price by 65%. The cost, not the price. The price that stayed where it was, and they got rid of pretty much every problem that they had because it was a copy of some old Russian diesel engine. So it was a big diesel, but anyways, at the end of the day, a ton of money went away, and so did a lot of the emissions. And that's the other thing we work on.
So you're not surprised at where we're at in the sort of the broader automotive industry and some of the concerns about how quickly China is developing?
No, they didn't do it quickly. They did it over a long period of time.
Overnight success, 20 years in the making.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. That's one of those things that artists and actors and whatnot, they always say, yeah, that was an instant success over 20 years.
Right.
And that's kind of like what they did. They have plans. They have there's a book called the 100-Year Marathon or something like that talks about how China wanted to get to where they needed to be. And they have 5-year plans that they used to have them in Russia, but they never worked out. In China, they work out. And Chairman Xi, when people are voting this year, I hope they take into account that Chairman Xi is the smartest guy on the planet. When it comes to seeing the future and whatnot, that guy's a wizard. And I'm sure that'll get you a lot of flack mail, but I'm telling you what, I met the guy. I've seen what he'd done. I've seen him, make magic happen. This guy, and he has 100% of the people in back of him. Very few people want to throw rocks at him, and we got 2 people, and
right.
You can't agree on anything from day to day. Yeah. But he's a lot more clever than you think. He's a real chess player, and most of the guys that I meet are checker players. Sure. They what's happening this week, that's what they want to know.
Yeah, that's sort of our issue, right? For better or for worse, we change governments every 4 years, and all the plans change subsequently. So.
Well, at one time it was a good idea.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you should revisit these kinds of things.
Right.
So,
so let me ask you then. So related, how screwed is the American automotive industry? Do you still have faith that we can? There's a lot of stuff that has to happen, right? For Chinese cars to come here, currently there's 100% tariff on them, and now we're hearing that Chinese software might not be allowed in this country. So any Chinese cars that come with Chinese software, forget about it. But let's say these cars eventually, it's inevitable, that Chinese electric vehicles or EREVs, whatever, come to the U.S. Do you have hope for the brands we know and love, or are you concerned about any particular brands?
In the 60s, General Motors owned 60% of the market share.
Yep.
What do they own now?
8?
Probably about 15.
Still 15?
Okay. What happened?
Yeah.
Where did our geniuses from Harvard, what happened there? How did that happen? Japanese showed up, right? Now, I hear all this stuff about, we're just going to keep them out. Really? Really? You have a free trade agreement with Mexico. What, are you going to scrap that? You're going to tell them that you're going to go back to the bad old days, and we're going to stop every truck that comes across the border? Because you want to try that, it's not going to be a happy afternoon. And are we going to have basically a trade war with China and Mexico at the same time? Right. How is that going to work? Again, we get back to guys that play chess versus clowns that play checkers. And a checker player is always going to lose. Always, if he's playing chess. He won't get it, or she won't get it. And I'm telling you what, that's where we are right now. So I didn't even vote in the last election. And now I'm stuck in the same, and actually it's an even a worse position. Because now you've got wars all over the damn planet. You've got, and you've got the big war for me isn't the one in the Ukraine. The big war for me is, what are we going to do to keep abreast of what's going on in the automotive world, especially when our car companies always take their cue from Wall Street, and they don't give a rat's ass about them at all, period, none. All they care about is what are we going to get next week or next quarter.
Next quarter, yeah.
They don't even look a year ahead. All they want to do is see profit for next week or next quarter. You can't win if you don't have a long plan. And like I said, 5-minute plans don't really work out well. So what's going to happen? The Chinese will show up. We'll have no choice because they own all the ingredients we really need right now for electric vehicles, and quite frankly, not just for electric vehicles, for a lot of stuff. They produce more iron and steel than you can shake a stick at. Right. They have a lot of stuff that we need, absolutely flat out need, can't live without. And I think that's going to be that. And so what's going to happen? Well, they'll come in. Toyota will lose some. General Motors will lose some. Ford will lose some. I don't even know if Stellantis is going to make it. BMW, Mercedes, they all tried to keep Japan out. I'm old enough to remember all this stuff. And I remember unfair treaties and dumping and all these words that we're now hearing again. That's what happened when Japan came in. And why did they win? Because they had a superior product. And that's the way it is. And I'm telling you what I've seen from China is a superior product. And you can try to stem the tide, but it won't work.
Across the board superior, or is there any particular Chinese brands that we should be looking at very closely? Or
BYD.
Specific models?
BYD is going to be the every vehicle they've got now is in its market. It's gonna kick ass.
Inclusive of their Yangwang, their luxury brand, that U8.
The Yangwang, I haven't really I haven't seen that one, but when I was in I was at Volvo, and they showed the Geely, and I've forgotten the name of it, and I got in that thing and I said, this is the end of all luxury vehicles. This is the best thing ever, and it's huge. It wasn't what I was expecting, and big doors and big seats and luxurious like I have never seen before, and it's selling like hotcakes in China. That's kind of like
okay.
And Guangzhou Automotive. There's all kinds of them.
Oh, yeah.
They have hundreds of car companies over there.
But the counterpoint is that apparently none of them are profitable, and they're going through
BYD is profitable.
Well, there's two. Li Auto and BYD are apparently the only two that are profitable, and it's on the backs of the hybrids and E-Revs, not the battery electrics. And the battery electric startups in particular are all suffering because of the price war that Elon actually started. Yeah, right. So now there's a consolidation coming, like we saw in the American automotive business when GM was basically formed. I love it all as an industry watcher because there's no more exciting time I can think of than right now.
I'm telling you, I'm way older than you are. And I've seen it for I started working in the auto industry when I was 16. And nothing has ever come close to what's going on right now. This is, without a question of a doubt, the most transitional part of the automotive world since Henry Ford walked in and said, hey, guess what? We were making an assembly line. That made a big difference. And General Motors, conglomerations and whatnot. And by the way, my last speech, which was in 2019 in China, and I was in Shanghai, and I was supposed to be the keynote speaker. I was kind of popular there. And there were so many people in that room, I knew that there was 3 balconies, or there was the floor and then 2 balconies. And I knew there was people up there. I couldn't see them because of the breathing. The whole room was all foggy. I could see beyond some of the lights, but it was jam-packed.
That's kind of gross, but okay.
You got to have COVID. That's where I think I got COVID, actually. First time, I think. But anyways, I'm ready to walk on. I got my presentation all ready to go. And the convener comes up, Mr. Munro, Chairman Xi wishes to make an announcement first. Let him do whatever he wants. Just make sure I can get out of here. And that's kind of like he came up and he made a speech and he said, we have 650 car companies. I want 350 in 2 years. I want 150 by 2024. I want to see blah, blah, all these guys come together. We're all Han. We're all Chinese. Right. Come together. And that's what you're seeing. So some of these guys are going to disappear. Some of them will be amalgamated. Some of them will maybe grow. It's hard to say. But I know one company that nobody talks too much about. But Great Wall, I'm telling you, I've driven all the cars, period. Great Wall is a hard one to beat. And if they start bringing anything in like that, Jeep has not got a chance. I mean, they have some really, really good vehicles.
Interesting. Great Wall is one of the 4 state-supported companies as well.
Nope.
No?
That's 100% independent. The guy that runs Great Wall or owns Great Wall, he's about as far away from I want government help as you can get. He is, No,
Okay.
It's not a bad. It's just, it is what it is. Most people can't really sort which ones are which. So, but Great Wall is... Great Wall's a really good company, but the guy that owns it, what a giant man! I'm telling you.
Okay.
When I was there, he fired the chief engineer that developed this vehicle. The whole car is ready to be sent out, and I was working for somebody else. I don't remember who. And Tina Yu we had a Chinese operation. I had to shut it down. But anyways, we had a Chinese operation, and Tina was the president. And Tina said, "Oh, Sandy, you're going to have to go and see Great Wall right now, Mr. I can't remember what his name is. But anyways, he wants to see you right this very minute. So jump on a plane or train or whatever. I get down there, and he didn't come out, but one of the other chief engineers came out and said, Mr. Great Wall wants you to drive this car. So I said, well, what am I supposed to be looking for? We want you to tell us. So anyway, I go zipping around their track, and you may have heard I do go fast, and I went really fast, I went really slow, I did everything in between, and I keep hearing this or something. The noise kept changing in my left ear. So anyway, I pulled in and I said, okay, well, the car handles okay, but there's some kind of noise in the back. And he was in back, and somebody was interpreting for him. And all of a sudden I hear this big, ah! And I said, what was that? Mr. Great Wall said, he knew it. There's going to be some bad times right now. Perhaps we could take you back to the train station. No, he fired everybody. He scrapped the whole car lane because he heard that noise, and he wants everything perfect. And by the way, he also clawed back the guy's bonus. He was getting a bonus yearly, and yeah.
Wild.
So I never really went back there.
Well, so the last time you were back in China was 2019?
2019, yeah.
Yeah, that was about the last time I had been back since I just went like literally 2 months ago. And
yeah.
Actually it was on the encouragement of Jim Farley, CEO of Ford. He told me, like, he's been telling me, Randy, you got to go back. Things are totally different. The cars are absolutely insane. Check out the technology. But in that same vein, I asked you, and you mentioned BYD and Great Wall and Geely. Who of the legacy or Western companies do you think has more than a fighting chance? I mean, obviously you like Tesla product. And Rivian?
Oh, Tesla, no problem. Rivian, probably no problem.
Lucid?
I don't know. We've never torn a Lucid apart. I don't know enough about them. I'll tell you one thing for sure. Their motor is the best. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, without a question of a doubt. That's the best electric motor.
Period, full stop, globally.
There isn't anything that comes in second. And then the other thing that they've got is their little teeny tiny gearbox. That differential that they've got, holy crap. I mean, it's magic. How come nobody else thought of this? Those two things I can tell you for sure. Lucid's got it. wrapped around and nobody's going to come
Peter
close.
Ronson, he's chief engineer on Model S. So
Yeah, well, Peter's been around. I met Peter a lot of times in Britain and in Germany. Yeah.
Okay.
He's a smart guy.
Anyone else? Any other car companies worth?
I think that Ford is going to do okay. I'm not 100% sure about General Motors. They seem to be searching for whatever it is that they want to do. But I think everybody is going to be hoisted on their own petards when it comes to battery technology. There's one battery technology that's sitting out there from Saku. It's like paper thin, and it's real solid state, and you lay one on top of the other and another on top of that and another on top of that, and you just keep adding up the bolts. It's the best technology I've seen. They're going to go probably broke waiting for an investor. If I had real money, I'd be on that thing like white on rice. But we just don't seem to be moving in the right direction here. We don't put our bets on the things that, to me, look like this is obvious. And you know what? I don't understand why, because I've been right a lot. And yet everybody says, oh, no, it's this guy on Wall Street says blah, blah, blah. And then 6 months later, oh, yeah, the guy on Wall Street, wait a minute, didn't you say that 6 months ago? Yeah. Okay, well, it's kind of a strange thing. It's really odd as to why people are placing bets on the horses that I think could win. But Ford will do okay. General Motors will probably survive, but they'll get smaller. And in BMW, the last couple of vehicles that I've driven from them, they look a whole lot better. Mercedes looks a little too blingy for me. I don't know what they're doing there.
Toyota?
Toyota is lucky because Saku-san, the guy in charge, I met him a long time ago at Toyota, and he was wicked smart then, and I think he's pretty damn smart now. He'll probably steer the company in a right decision or a right way. I think Honda will do okay. Hyundai and Kia are already. We're in the process. We've already taken apart the Ioniq. And right now we're tearing down the
EV9.
EV9, and the rear motor is magic. So
I like to say everyone's worried about when China comes, but right now the Koreans are eating everyone's lunch right now with some of these EVs. So
there's a lot of good stuff coming out of Korea, and the two biggest battery companies that everybody's hanging their hat on are LG and SK, and I don't see anybody taking their place.
Right, and we have they're our allies too, which is great. So that helps.
Well, that's good. But you know what? I will tell you, there's a hierarchy when you talk to anybody in the Far East, and the consensus is the Japanese are lazy, and the Koreans are ruthless, but the Chinese will dominate. And that's kind of like, and if you talk to any of the women in China, they'll tell you that men are lazy, and that's why I had a woman president. I mean, she was so aggressive, it wasn't even funny. But
okay.
They have a lot of rules over there.
So the key takeaway is watch out for Chinese women, is what you're saying.
Well, no, you better be respectful. You could turn your back and they'd kick your ass. I mean, it could happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is awesome. We've moved so quickly. I only got a couple. We're running out of time, so I only got a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
I'm very interested. Your superpower is the ability to tear down vehicles and tell big companies how to take cost out and improve their margins, and for the benefit of all. But MotorTrend's fundamentally consumer facing. We're for the car guy. Is there any insights you can tell somebody out there who's buying a car, like when they should? I always hear these horror stories that GM, like the first year of a GM product is going to be, assuming they got everything right, it's going to be the richest experience, because in subsequent generations they start pulling cost out, and then the
That's
seat materials.
called decontenting.
Yes.
Yes.
So when is the best time to buy a car from one of the major manufacturers?
Well, the major manufacturers, for me, I try and get the earliest car I can get. So I got my 2 Cybertrucks in March, and the one I'm still driving, and I'm happy as a clam with it. Now they say they want it back because they want the accelerator doodad pop riveted down. Too late, I already took care of it. And they said that there's something wrong with the windshield wiper. You know what? I've been in torrential downpours and snow and every other damn thing, and it seems to be fine for me. So I'm not going to take it back. I have a aversion to taking things back to the dealer, or in this case the center. Sure. But for me, I've always bought right off. Everybody says, "Oh, don't buy on a Friday and never buy the first year," and stuff like that.
That's what I tell people.
Yeah, well, I don't subscribe to that. At one time, guys used to come in loaded on Friday afternoon. They'd go out, spend their paycheck, and come back. That does not happen that much anymore. I'm sure there's something that happens, but that's not something that is as prevalent as it was when I was a kid.
Is there anything that people listening who own a recent, like a new car, they could go into? Is there any place that they should check, like for obvious decontenting? Because they go and go rub the door card somewhere, or flick the seat at a certain angle or something.
Well, actually, when you look at a vehicle, if you know what you're looking for, like Alcantara,
okay,
that stuff's really expensive, and it usually comes out when the car is new, and then it can come out with microfiber, and you can tell the difference there. One feels like it's made out of suede, Alcantara, and microfiber feels like you can get this couch and a chair for only $69,
right.
That kind of stuff. And so it does happen. There's no question about it. Because as a rule, if they don't do the job right, and that means, scrubbing the design, not waiting until it's in the marketplace and then saying, oh, well, now we're going to take this feature out or that feature out. Well, wait a minute, I just got used to that. I don't want to have that removed. I like that. Well, that has to come out. Why? Well, because we buggered it up in the first place. We should have never put that in. Well, that comes from executives that want to, have their thumbprint on it. It should never. All engineering should be done in a cold way. It should be done because it makes good engineering sense. It's structurally sound and things like that. Or it's easier for the operator to put together, or quite frankly, it's something that everybody is going to want. To just have a whim, like I watched at General Motors, an executive came in and said he didn't like the way the license plate holder was built into the bumper, or the fascia, the rear fascia, and they redesigned the whole damn car. Not just the fascia, but everything else. Put them back a year. Right. That's stupid. That's just wasteful and stupid. But if you go in and you're at the design phase and like what we do is analyze at the design phase. So I've got maybe CAD drawings or a sketch, and we say, okay, we can get rid of 15 parts here. We're going to get rid of that, and we're going to make it a snap fit instead of 14 screws or those kinds of things. If you can get in early enough, you can make it so that you don't have to. And that's what the Chinese are doing. They're doing exactly that. And the Japanese car companies, they've slipped into the bad habits of the American and European companies. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, last question. It's multi-part. You have, it was kind of where we started. You famously tore apart the Model 3, and you subsequently had Elon on to talk about it, and then you recently, not that recently, but you had him on to talk about Cybertruck.
Yeah.
How do you think Tesla's doing? How do you think he's doing? Like, he's got a lot going on. Do you have any thoughts on what Elon has been up to these days? Car, inclusive of Tesla, but all the other things he's been busy with?
I think that everybody thinks that he's either a car guy or a spaceship guy, or maybe a Twitter X, whatever kind of guy. He's all those and a whole lot more. That guy's more complicated and smarter than anybody I've met, period. And I met lots of smart people. I know a lot of really wicked smart people that are, they're the best in their field. But when you talk to somebody like Elon Musk on any topic, I mean, he knows more than everybody. How he does that is way beyond me. His brain cells must be a whole lot more tightly built than mine, that's for sure. I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning some days, but he, on the other hand, is, like I say, when we did the last interview, that was when he basically had that interview with New York Times. Next day, he's standing in front of me, not a happy guy. And then somebody gave his son Doritos, and he's not a fan of junk food. Right. Kid's got orange all the way around his face and stuff like that. And he comes walking up. He's holding the kid, and I said, "Hey, Elon, had a bad day, huh?" "Yeah." "Sure you want to do this?" "Yeah, let's get it going." "How long have I got?" 20 minutes. It was an hour and a half or something like that. And we did take some things out because I thought they may be a little too politically charged. But at the end of the day, I would trust his judgment over anybody's, even Chairman Xi. I think he's smarter than he is. So I've listened to what he had to say, checked it out a dozen times, and every way from Sunday. Every time I check something out, I can't believe it. I didn't know that, blah, blah, blah. He's got magic ingredients for castings. The new, there's a different, when you make laminates for electric motors, that laminate steel is like all kind of black magic stuff. And he's got something new in there, and we can't figure out we keep getting analysis back, and it's not exactly what we're looking at. We're not what we're looking for. The new dry cell 4680, it shouldn't work, but it's a 9.5. That kind of, how do you do that? How do you make it so that it doesn't do like a nuclear runaway, and you only got a little teeny amount of cobalt? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that he spends money on that the normal OEMs would never dream of.
But some people say that that's not. How do you attribute that to him and not the people he has, or is it one and the same to you? What smart people?
To me, if you've got a smart boss, smart enough. Here, I'll give you an example. So, I was at SpaceX in Brownsville, and we had done an interview with him, and he said, we were packing up, and he said, "Hey, Sandy, we're going to have a design review on one of the rocket engines, and you want to hang around?" Sure. So anyways, I've worked on rocket engines, jet engines. If it's an engine, I probably worked on it. Everything from monoblocks to anything. There's nothing I haven't worked on. That was what I was. I was an engine engineer. So anyways, he says, "You want to sit in on it? You worked on rockets for the old companies." "Yeah, sure." So he's sitting there, and him and another guy get into an argument about whether they can do something to do with the engine that I really didn't quite understand. It was over my head. So Elon said, blah, blah, blah. And then another guy with an English accent said, "Oh, Elon, for God's sake." And he rattles off this formula. And Elon goes, "Well, wait a minute. Oh yeah, you're right. That is not what you hear out of CEO or CFO or anything with a C in front of it. Right. You never argue with the big boss. Never, ever. It just doesn't happen." And yet this guy said, "You're wrong, Elon." Elon thought about it. He came back and he says, "Oh, yeah, you're right. Let's move on." And they did. I mean, it was an amazing experience. I just was dead tired, though. We'd driven 16 hours to get there, and I was pretty much shot. So we had to leave. But that was the best design review I've ever been in my life, and I've been in lots of serious stuff. So I think that Elon is a good leader because he can also understand when he's made a mistake or taken a wrong course, and then change.
Right, and you've certainly been in a position to call him out on some of the mistakes he's made in the vehicle
I have,
manufacturing.
and I mean I've got 30 or 40 different times that he's dropped our name and said kind things, and videos. I mean, there's a bunch of videos out there where he gave us credit for a lot of things. And actually, I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's a whole bunch of Easter eggs inside the Cybertruck. One of them that is sitting on my desk right now is out of the steering system, and because I've been a big advocate of steer-by-wire, I think that the intermediate shaft is nothing but a shish kebab for the driver.
Right.
So on the circuit board, it's about this big, and it says "Hi, Sandy," and then there's a little Taurus symbol, like the Taurus is in what do they call it? Astrological.
Yeah, your horoscope.
Yeah. Okay. And then the reason for that is because they know that I had a lot to do with the Taurus. A lot. I mean, the trick that I kind of like got or invented or whatever for Ford was at Ford, and
That's hilarious.
Lou Veraldi, he's no longer with us, but anyways, Lou Veraldi was the guy, and he got a big giant package, and he retired from Ford, and then he was a consultant, and he was the guy basically in charge of manufacturing for the Taurus, and nobody gave me more pats on the head and got me into different companies than he did. I mean, he was an amazing guy, and that his legacy, basically, I got pulled along by the what do they call it, apron strings or something, or yeah.
Well, my last question is: do you remember who introduced you to Elon Musk?
Introduced me to Elon Musk.
Check your email. It was me.
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
me?
you had done the original report, and occasionally Elon replies to my emails, and we happened to be chatting about it, and I think I reached out for more information on behalf of MotorTrend to get like, hey, we'd love to see this teardown you did. Can you? And you're like, cool. And then I said, I can probably introduce you to Elon if you like. And I emailed him and I said, would you like to meet Sandy? I have the email string.
Well, send it along. I'd love to see that, because all I got was the nameless lady who's in charge of everything.
Chief of staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's the one who basically said, "Hi, I'm just wondering if you'd like to meet Elon. You can either see him here in Brownsville, or you can go all the way back down to L.A., and that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I said, no, we're on the way right now.
You probably have because honestly, our company changed email servers like 3 times. So I have like this fragment of an email chain with Elon. But I went looking today for the original email I sent you and said, would you like to? If you still have your email, if your email's been the same for like the last, whatever, 10 years,
yeah,
you just look for my name and it's probably in there. So,
no kidding.
Yeah. So.
Well, I did not know. I all I know is that I got a call from this wonderful lady, and next thing I know, I was driving like a bat out of hell to get from Eugene, Oregon to Brownsville. I mean, you talk about going from here to there, as far south as you can go and still stay in the continental U.S. and in the boondocks. Yeah.
Well, you're welcome. And thank you for the bottle opener.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Well, I had to do something.
Yeah. Well, honestly, this has been fantastic. We are way over time. I would love to have you on again. And next time I'm in the greater Detroit or Auburn Hills area, you guys do Munro Live. This is your own podcast. You have your own YouTube channel, which has like 465,000 subscribers. What's the YouTube channel?
Munro Live.
Munro
YouTube.
Live, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the podcast, Munro Live, the YouTube channel, Munro Live. Anything else you want to push?
Yeah, buy our reports. Actually, I just found out today that we didn't do the whole Cybertruck because nobody gives a damn. Nobody's going to go into stainless steel. Nobody wants to see certain things. But what they do want to see is the 48-volt study. The
four-wheel steering?
What's that?
The four-wheel steering, perhaps?
The four-wheel steering. Anything to do with the electronics, the advanced stuff. That's what we're putting out because, quite frankly, like I say, nobody gives a damn about the seats. Nobody cares about the instrument panel. The screen is the same as the one before. I mean, so we've concentrated on that. And actually, I just found out, I cannot believe this, but but our electronics study, it turns out it's 3,000 pages. I heard that just before I was coming down here. Sue told me about it, my lovely wife, let me know about this. And I said, 3,000 pages? We're never going to get our money back. And she said, well, I'm just telling you, we're going to have to redo something, but this has got 3,000 pages in it. And I reached over and I got a 5-hour energy drink. Because I figured if I don't do something, I'm going to probably pass out with excitement. But
how much do you charge for that report?
I'm not sure. Not sure about the electronics report, but the general report is about $150,000. So we have to sell about. Usually we have to sell somewhere around 10 of them to get our money back. But I can tell you right now that almost every Japanese company has bought. All the Korean company has bought. We've got quite a big following in China.
Sure.
So I think this time we'll break even at least. But getting that information out especially to tier ones is huge. I mean, these guys are the ones that are. In fact, when I'm done with all this, I'm going to give a speech to an organization called, what is it, American Parts Association? I can't remember. But anyways, and my thing is, hey, wake up. You do not know what's coming. And if you believe anybody else, you're out of your mind. And I'm going to talk about that. And I'm also going to talk about one other thing that we really should know about. We are not teaching our children correctly. And I'm going to show a little video, maybe two. One is in Japan. And it's kids that are about 7 or 8 or 9 years old putting an engine together. We don't do that. Oh, the children can't do that. Oh, that's child labor. And the other one was in China, and that's doing electronic circuit boards. And I'm telling you, those little kids, they know everything on how to. So you can put a lot of things together on a placement machine. Some things have to be hand done, and they're showing these little kids putting them together. What are they doing? Are they actually going to take that circuit board and put it in a car? Hell no. What they're doing is they're teaching their kids that, you know what, work is honorable, and we've lost that. Right. We have lost that completely. The only thing that's honorable is if you're a big shot and you got to get a degree and blah, blah, blah. And then you start finding out that the degree you got allows you to run a cash register as long as you just put it in front of the barcode reader. I mean, we've got a real problem there. That's what I'm the most nervous about. Yeah, so that'll end it on a happy note.
Well, that resonates with me. I got a young child, so this is good life advice.
Yeah.
But no, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
And if you have $150,000 burning a hole in your pocket and would like to purchase the latest Munro and Associates report on Cybertruck electrical architecture, 48 volt, right? Yeah.
Oh no, it's 48 volts, Ethernet ring. Everything that has to do with the electronics inside there, how the Ethernet ring is interfacing with, because we still have CAN bus, because again,
it's
we
like
got
$50 a page. It's a deal, right? 3,000. Yeah.
That one may be a slightly different number, but you can get the executive summary in the $150,000 one. But that detailed thing, when I get back, we're going to have some conversations. Nobody told me it was going to be anything like that, but that has every stinking chip on every circuit board with all the paths identified and on and on and on and on. And when they told me that they were going to do that, I said, wow, that's amazing. How are you going to do it? Oh, no, we've got our ways. Everything's going to be fine. 30, that's...
You have a free, but you do have a free report on the site. I think the i3 is now available if you want to read it. Is that correct?
The BMW i3 was on, but I don't think it's there anymore. I think we took it down because it cost us money to host it.
Okay.
We did have it out there for $1 or something.
Okay. Well,
or whatever.
it's probably floating around the free internet somewhere. So,
yeah.
Sandy Munro, thank you so much for coming on, and I'd love to chat with you again next time you're in town.
Well, thank you. It's been It's been great. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks.
The InEVitable Vodcast, brought to you by the all-electric Nissan Ariya. Inspired by the future, designed for the now.